Well, we have a great turnout tonight. I'm very excited about this. I am Officer Sewell. I am the Neighborhood Watch Liaison. We have these meetings the first Thursday of every month at 6:30 in the City Commission Room. And tonight we have a great lineup, all sorts of things to talk about. The first thing we're going to touch on is the burglaries we have been having in the city, because we have had a few. Then we're also going to have guest speaker Sonia Larimore, who is a co-chair for the SEK Senior Safety and Wellness Coalition, and she currently is employed at the Windsor Assisted Living, that she's going to talk to us about elder abuse and how to recognize and deal with that sort of thing. And we also have Mr. Meekum from the fire department who's going to talk about a new program that they're starting. But before we get into all of that, I do want to talk about the burglaries we've been having. The Coffeyville Police Department has seen a large amount of burglaries this month. Although it is usual for the number of burglaries to go up during the holiday season, this year has been a little abnormal. In October, we had 18 residential burglaries, 7 vehicle burglaries, and 10 business burglaries. Our officers have gone above and beyond in trying to catch these guys, and we have made 4 or 5 solid arrests on this. And we've sent people to jail. But we are still seeing burglaries, so after Sonia speaks, we're going to focus more on how to protect your homes. And actually, after Sonia and Mr. Meekum speak, we're going to focus on how to protect your homes and businesses just a little bit in the end. The Coffeyville Police Department is happy to come to any location and walk you through a security checklist, so feel free to contact us regardless of the hours. We have officers, obviously, 24 hours a day, so if you're a midnight shift worker and that's when you're awake, still call up. We'll still do a walkthrough with you guys. And we'll try to get some more security beef-ups going on in our city to try to prevent these burglaries. And I want you guys, if you see anything suspicious, call it in. We are always happy. We'd rather be able to investigate something that we find isn't an actual burglary than have somebody have seen it and then didn't call it in. We're happy to step up for that sort of thing. Does anybody remember from previous Neighborhood Watch meetings what I said the definition of suspicion is? Anybody have a guess at it? Suspicion. Anything that doesn't look right, that's exactly it. Anything out of the ordinary. So if you see anything that doesn't quite rub you right, you look over there and you say, that's kind of strange, call it in. There's no reason for you not to, particularly when we are getting these commercial burglaries at nighttime. If you're seeing people around businesses that are not open, call it in, because we really want to step up on these guys, and we have done very well with solving our burglaries using the community. You guys, you add another 200 eyes when you guys are looking out the window. You know, we might only have 5, 6 officers on the street that day, but when we have the Neighborhood Watch looking out the window, that makes us have 200 officers on the street. So I really do appreciate the work you guys are doing, and although we did have a lot this month, we also caught a lot of burglars this month. So, and a lot of that was to do with the community. For example, power plant had some vehicle burglaries going on, and one of the employees looked outside and he said, that guy's in my truck. So he goes downstairs to investigate this. By the time he gets downstairs, the guy's in another truck. So he calls us, he follows him until we get there, does not make contact, does exactly what he's supposed to. We did arrest him. It was a solid case, so there is no getting out of that one. So you guys are doing what you're supposed to. You're calling stuff in. We do appreciate that. Keep up the good work. Now we are going to have Sonia come up and talk. She's an excellent public speaker. I'm really excited about this, so you guys will enjoy it, I promise.
First off, thank you for letting me come speak. It's my passion and my desire to raise awareness for the prevention of elder abuse. I am the manager of assisted living at Windsor Place, and in 1998 I began my career working with the elderly. And nothing makes me more angry or more sad is for somebody that doesn't have a voice to be taken advantage of or mistreated, whether it's a child or an animal or, even more importantly, my senior population. When somebody mentions child abuse, I'm sure all of you have a vivid imagination of what that looks like. You know, the bruises, the battered child, the neglected child, domestic violence. You all probably come up with exactly what that looks like. When you think of elder abuse, you may still think of the black and blue, the broken bones, that type of thing, but do you think about financial? Do you think about somebody letting an elder lay or sit in their own waste, not making sure that they're clean and cared for, sitting with even in their home with sores and different things that would prevent them from having a good quality life. All these things is what elder abuse is. As Officer Sewell said, I do chair a coalition for the prevention of elder abuse. It meets in Independence on the second Wednesday of every month at 2 o'clock at Fork County. Anybody's invited to come. There's always a speaker. We do not meet in December, so we do take it. 75 to 90% of the abusers are family members. That means you have somebody in their home, 75 to 90% of the time is going to be a family member, because your family members become caregivers. There's several different types of abuse. There's fiduciary, and that's just a big word for money. Neglect, and neglect can be neglection of services. If somebody is hired to go in and take care of them, whether it is to make sure that they have food, a bath, their supplies they need for the day, if they fail to do that, that is a form of neglect. Exploitation, undue influence is part of that, as is coercion, harassment, deception, and false representation. A lot of times caregivers get in a situation that they're short of cash. I mean, we're going into the holiday season. They've had some changes in some of the aid that's given to people this month, and the times are hard. And so it may be a time that, well, Mrs. Jones, my electric's not working real good today, and they've turned it off. Mrs. Jones, well, honey, just write you an extra check there. It's okay. Nobody has to know. Well, Mrs. Jones wants to make sure her caregiver, whether it be family or somebody they've hired, still keeps coming, because their actual family member may live in California, and if the caregiver does not come, who's going to bring them their groceries? Who's going to take them to the doctor, to the grocery store, or who's just going to come see them? A lot of times the caregiver is the only person that senior sees every day. We had a neat lady years ago in Independence. She lived upstairs over one of the businesses, and she had broken her hip, and whenever they brought her back out of the hospital, she was never able to go down the stairs again. Well, my home care workers were her everything. We were the person she yelled at. We were the person she loved, that cried with. And, you know, she was a rough person, but she loved us and we loved her. And, you know, so that caregiver becomes family. And it's hard when families do live away, because the person coming in and caring for them becomes a surrogate family member. And a lot of times that's when the family heirloom starts disappearing, or, you know, it's easy to sell things at the pawn shop, at, you know, some of the flea markets, that type of thing. And so Miss Jones may have poor eyesight. She doesn't know that her crystal vase is now missing and has a picture there instead of that crystal vase that's been in the family for 100 years. It is so easy to gain the trust of a senior. We were talking, Officer Sewell today and I were talking about neglect and self-neglect. We have a right, and it was the hardest thing that I ever learned in home care. We have a right, whether you're 16, 18 years old, or 99 years old, we have a right to make bad decisions. I mean, we have a right to, my definition of clean probably isn't anything the same definition of clean of anybody that's here. And because you come into my house and I have 2 cats and 3 dogs, you may not like cat hair and dog hair, but, you know, I'm okay with that. And so, you know, I live like that, but having somebody having to eat food that's spoiled and that type of thing, that's a neglect. Or if they are so unkept that they have sores, or rodents and bugs and that type of thing becomes a health issue to where they can catch a disease, that becomes a self-neglect, and that is a reportable, and you would report that to the Adult Protective Services, and the numbers on the back of the handout, and there's over there also. That they have a right to make bad decisions and to choose the way to live, but we also have a right to voice concerns to them first. You know, is this really what you want to do, or can I get you some help? How can I help you? And that's opening up that line of communication is the best thing on preventing and intervening in abuse and neglect and exploitation. 1 out of every 8 Americans is 65 or older. Senior citizens over the age of 65 is 12.4% of the U.S. population, and in Kansas is 13.3. Montgomery County, let's see, is 17.3 of the population, 17.3% of the population is over the age of 65. And this is where the financial is kind of the big one. It's the hardest at times to track down because it's easy for it to go for a long time. And, you know, once you retire, it's hard to make up that money after it's been gone. But according to the American Administration on Aging, the median net worth of a senior is $108,000. And for the total U.S. population, it's $55,000. So our seniors, as we know, control most of the wealth. And that's why they're such an easy target. One of the scams that's been going on for a while is they'll call an elder in the middle of the night, and they call in the middle of the night for several reasons. One, a lot of seniors wear hearing aids, and how many seniors go to sleep with their hearing aids in? Not very many. And if you're woke up in the middle of the night, you're very discombobulated. And so you have a young man or young woman on the other line, or even another person. Well, your grandson's in Mexico and has got arrested for drunk driving or hitting a tree or whatever. We need so much money now to get him before he goes to jail. And everybody knows and has heard the rumors about how wonderful the Mexican jails are. And no grandparent's going to want their grandchild to go to jail in Mexico or any other foreign country. And so they are able to credit card, or, you know, you need to wire me this. And so that is a scam that is actually going on. And I know a pastor's wife 2 years ago in Independence she did not fall for it, but she was contacted with her grandson. And what they didn't realize is she didn't have a grandson. So, you know, that really didn't work for their scam. There are 2.1 million cases of elder abuse reported. And for every one case that is reported, there's 5 that goes unreported. Your most likely people to report are the 18 to 40-year-olds, because they don't have anything to lose and they want what's theirs, and, you know, they're going to do everything they can to make sure that they get their stuff back. And if they are financially abused, they are able to earn that income back because they're still working. An elder that has been a victim of financial abuse, and when I first heard the statistic, it just broke my heart, but they're likely to die within 6 to 18 months because of the shame that they feel, the loneliness or the helplessness, because a lot of times whenever the money is taken, they no longer have that security that they've worked all their life for. I mean, it just devastates them. And when I heard that, I mean, that really clicked that, you know, we're not just talking about, you know, I don't have any money anymore. We're talking about somebody dying because of what has happened. A lot of times they won't report for several reasons, and one of them is the shame. This other one is, what's going to happen if I call my kids and tell them I fell for that stupid scam? Well, you can't take care of your money, you can't take care of yourself, let's find you some place to put you. You know, and everybody has a connotation of nursing homes and such from 20 years ago, and nobody wants to go there. And it isn't true. We need to be able to speak up and speak out. One of the main things on elder abuse, just like Officer Sewell said about the burglaries, if you see something or you have a neighbor that isn't acting quite right or has changed in their personality, instead of being chipper or whatever, you see them with their caretaker, and she's becoming reclusive. Her personality has changed. She may be the laughing, joyful person that you've known for years, and all of a sudden she's walking with her head down. Her facial expressions have changed. As long as there's not a health issue that you can identify, you know, take time to go over there and have a cup of coffee with them or coffee with her when somebody's not there. You know, we've got to get involved. It can't be the police department or adult protective services or agencies to fix all this. We as the community members have to step in and take care of our little neck of the forest, because if we don't do it, we're going to have a sad, sad situation that you'll be reading about in the newspapers. It's just, we've got to get involved. Some of the things that cause a person to abuse is the situation as a caregiver. And it can be I had a couple move into my assisted living, and I had to have several conversations with the husband because he was verbally abusing his wife. And even though that they are married, once you move into a home, there's rules, and I am governed and mandated to report. And but that was her normal way of communication. But she was in a diminished state, so whenever he yelled at her, just like you would in everyday relationships, she shut down, and she had issues that it was even worse. She couldn't defend herself or talk her way and talk him down, and so it may be the way they have communicated. The parent may have been abusive whenever the kids were little, and so the abuse goes full cycle because they learned how to abuse from what was displayed to them. And so mom or dad has moved back in with them because, mom and dad has all the money, and so if we move in, then we have mom's Social Security or dad's pension to help run my house while I'm, not making a lot of money. And so it becomes a stressor, and that child has learned how to communicate improperly, and that becomes an issue, and that can be where some of the abuse starts. Or you have a very frail senior living with a family member, and they get tired. I mean, the caregiver gives out sometimes long before the person being cared for does, and it becomes, people don't always ask for help. There's people that, if you belong to a church, they'll come in and sit for an hour or two so you can go get your nails done, or go down and get your hair cut at the barber shop, go have coffee or something. But we've got to be able to identify when we need a break. And if by not taking that break, then the elder may, during like bath time is a bad time, because especially if they have dementia or Alzheimer's, they're afraid of water, and so there can be some conflict that will, they may get aggressive during that bath time. And so if you add that you're tired, because as the adult, I may be working, and so I may come home and I still got to take care of, I still have to do meals for my kids that are living there. You may have what they call a sandwich generation. You may have an adult, their kids, and mom or dad living there. And so you have all these different dynamics, different communications going on, and it really can create a hostile or volatile situation to where that proverbial straw hits and it becomes abuse. There could be, like I said, long-term history of violence, the communication style or lack thereof, mental illness, mood disorders. Mental illness can be treated, and they have, just like any other disease, or you have to ask for help, and if you don't, then that can add to the likelihood or the probability of abuse happening in that home setting with that family member. Isolation becomes an issue. I was a home care manager for Windsor Place for 5 or 6 years, and there was a lady over in Caney, and she was the neatest lady, but she was very much obsessive compulsive disorder. I mean, she wanted my staff to go down with toothbrushes around the baseboard because there might be lint in the cracks. And so I had left Windsor Place for a few years, and I came back, and about 2 years ago I got a phone call from the daughter, and who I'd never met, and the son had been arrested for drugs off the top of mom's roof. He'd been the caregiver for a number of years, and they said when they went in to arrest him, there was the place was like a hoarding house. And I told the police officer, I said, whenever I talked to them, I said, there was no way that my lady would ever have lived like that by choice. And so that was an abusive situation for her, because one, that wasn't her style that she has ever chose to live in. And he was taking her drugs and selling them, and taking her money, and a sundry of other things in there. He was arrested for other things, but those were other things that could have been tied in, and unfortunately he didn't live long enough to see the justice system fully imposed on him, but she was taken care of and is doing well. Between 1 and 2 million Americans 65 and older have been injured, exploited, mistreated by their caregivers. there's 1 to 25 cases of financial exploitation currently being filed, and it just, I forgot where that was at, I'm sorry about that one. But again, for every one case that was reported, 5 go unreported, and that's according to 2005 statistics. One of the ways that people are able to exploit or scam our elders and take advantage of them is, one of the biggest things is they're lonely. You get somebody, like I said, I run assisted living at Windsor Place, and there's times that I'm very busy, and I know that I'm not going to go up to Mrs. Jones and say, well, how are you doing today? Because if I ask, I really want to know, because she's going to tell me. And they get people on the phones, the callers do, and they will talk to them. They will answer their questions, because we're not supposed to be rude to people. We're supposed to talk. We don't hang up, because that is rude. And they're 80, 90 years old, and you are definitely not rude to people on the phone. They're able to scam them, take advantage of them. And so, being that neighbor, if you know somebody that's an elderly person or a dependent adult, somebody that needs assistance, take time to visit with them, not just during the holidays. I mean, we're all eager to do special things for our neighbors or for the elderly from our church or dependent adults during the holiday season, but there's, 10 other months during the year that they may be lonely, and sets them up for relying on that caregiver that can say, well, Mrs. Jones' eyesight's pretty bad today, and I need to pay my electric bill, and she signs checks for her utility bill, for her she signs the checks, so I fill out to pay her bills. She's not going to notice if I have her sign an extra check, because she doesn't remember how many checks she signs. And so that's one of the ways they do it, because as we age, we lose some of the things that may happen is our eyesight fails, our hearing, our thought process, and it's really easy to sign, oh, Ms. Jones, we got one more check to sign, don't forget to sign this one. And they may have been a caregiver or a family member that cared for them for a number of years, but that caregiver's circumstances change, and desperate times cause people to do things that's not in their normal habit. And, they may have a child that's been sick, and, they can't afford the medicine, or, any other number of things that would cause people to do something they wouldn't normally do, but they have gained that trust of the senior. The other thing is, it's really easy if you have a frail elder and they're in a wheelchair or in a chair and they can't get up, and you're a pretty good sized person. Well, Mrs. Jones, you better sign that, or I'm not coming back, and who's going to get your milk, and who's going to do this, and who's going to do, okay, I'll sign it, because they don't have anybody else. They don't have anybody else. They can't afford to pay somebody more than what they are paying that one, or they don't know that they can make a change. So if we can, January to October, find somebody that's, you guys are doing a neighborhood watch. Have you guys identified the seniors that are in your neighborhood that may need a phone call? Well, Mrs. Jones, how are you doing? I've been thinking about you this week. Is everything going okay? And, they had I don't remember where it was at, a dog that had a child. I know we're not talking about kids, but your animals can tell you, their animals can tell you if something's not right either. They had a babysitter, and this dog never liked everybody, but all of a sudden he started really not liking that babysitter and even bit them. And so they finally got suspicious and set up a nanny cam type thing, and that lady was beating that baby and shaking it and stuff, and that dog knew it and was, so if something changes, if it looks funny, report. And that's one of the things, it isn't your job as a community member or my job as a mandated reporter to make a determination if, well, Mrs. Jones is being abused, I just know it is. I don't have to do that. If I have to think about it and say, I don't know, make a phone call. And like I said, the phone numbers are in our packet here. Call Adult Protective Services. And you can always call the police department, and they can do a welfare check. Or, if it's criminal, if it's an injury, call the police department, because it may take 3 or 4 or 5 days for Adult Protective Services to screen it in, which means say that it is probably needed to be looked at. But our police department will go and check it out. So it's very important. I think the main thing that I can say, a couple things, is you've got to get involved and reach out to that. You know, we talk about Coffeyville Pride, and I'm like, someone asked Police Chief Celeste, you know, what he thought about Coffeyville. Coffeyville is an awesome community. I mean, I see things going on. I see I see leadership stepping up, people that aren't the presidents of this and vice presidents of that, but ordinary people like us stepping up to do stuff. And you guys already have the neighborhood watch going, so why not spread it out and start identifying those seniors that are in your neighborhood? You know, because I can't take care of all of Coffeyville, but I can do things like this and speak and give you the information. You know, if it looks like something's going on, call Adult Protective Services. Their number is 1-800-922-5330, 800-922-5330. Call the police department, and if you have a question, you know, if you just want to ask, what do you think about this? You can always call me. It is my passion and my desire to be that resource. You know, I'm not going to move you into assisted living unless you want to, but I'm there for your resource. It's about being given the information to the people that need it. So if I can help, you can call me, and my number's on the back of this. Anybody have any questions or anything like that? Thank you.
And obviously, she is right about the welfare checks. We do get calls for that all the time. You know, hey, I've been trying to get a hold of my sister. We're both, 80-something years old. Can you go check on her? And she hasn't picked up the phone. So remarkable how often a phone gets knocked off a hook. But we actually like doing that. I like getting out in the community, making sure somebody's okay, and sitting there and just chatting with them for a little bit. So it is not a problem. It is not an imposition for us. If you think something's going on, please report it. And in the case of elder abuse or child abuse, or you don't even have to give your name. You look across the street and you see something that just bothers you, call in and just say, hey, this is something I think needs checked out. And if they say, I'd like your name, you can say, I'd like to be anonymous. It's just that simple. So call this stuff in. And everything from burglaries to abuse is something that needs reported, and she is very right. And I do appreciate her saying that, people need to step up and be a community, and it is the holiday season, so people think about that at this time, but they don't always think about it in August. So, excellent speech. Thank you very much. Next, I'm going to have FD's Mr. Meekum come talk about his new program.
I'm Josh Meekum with the Fire Department. Officer Sewell said we're starting a new program at the Fire Department called FLASH. FLASH stands for Fire Loss Awareness for Safer Homes. Kind of what that is, a lot of people are aware of business inspections where we go out and make sure they've got their smoke detectors, their exits, and all that stuff. Well, this is kind of like a residential type deal. Kind of a way to get us in there. A lot of people kind of ask, where do my smoke detectors need to go? Should I have a fire extinguisher and that kind of stuff? Well, this program will let us come in. It's free, no ramifications. If we come into your house and you've got 50 fire extinguishers over here and they're all out of date and extension cords that are running air conditioners, we don't care. We're just going to tell you, shouldn't do this. Let's get up. It's just a way to keep you and your family safe. Right now, the only way to kind of sign up for it is just call the fire department. We're working on getting a Facebook link and on the website. I don't talk as good as she did. Just some of the things that we'll look for is extension cords, your smoke detectors, candles, matches, just the basic stuff. Your dryer vents, a lot of people don't think about that kind of stuff. Are they cleaned out? You should do that stuff on an annual basis or more for me and my kids, because we do a lot of laundry. That's real, like I said, there's no fines, no cost. Come out and do a few things. We'll have a checklist. We'll go through, we'll write suggestions down, give it to the homeowner, and if they decide they want to have us change the things, have us come back, we'll be more than happy to come back. Need batteries changed or smoke detectors, we'll change them then. Say, time just got changed, so remember to change your smoke detector batteries. I think that's about all I've had for it. I don't have a whole lot, like some people do, but.
Hey, Josh, what is something that
you see frequently causing house fires?
Right now, it's mainly unattended cooking. It's kind of unattended cooking. Somebody will start cooking something, go in the other room, start watching a football game, forget it's on, and then their smoke detector starts going off and they go in, well, they've got a little small stove fire or something like that going on. A lot of people think, oh, it's winter time. It's when it starts getting a lot of fires. Well, no, there's no rhyme or reason to it, what makes them start going on, but you'll get the occasional where somebody will have a floor furnace that they have covered up with the rug and stuff like that. But unlike the police department, who's been very busy in October, we've been slow. So that's good when our business is slow. I mean, we've been that way for a while, which is good. And I hope a lot of it's with us getting out doing the fire prevention in the community and the schools and trying to get a lot of this stuff kind of going back up. Anybody else have any questions or anything? It can be.
What is that flash thing for?
That's fire loss awareness for safer homes. And it started, out of a bigger metropolitan fire department in the state. And what they used to do is there would be a fire. Well, they would go to your neighborhood, kind of explain to the homeowner what happened, and they'd go out to the neighboring houses. Well, Miss Jones, her house caught on fire because of this reason here. This is what you can do to help prevent it. We're trying to do more of a proactive, get out and let people know before an incident happens, so we can do it that way. So, any more questions? Okay.
Is there a safer, let's say you don't have a regular central heat system, is there a safer way to heat your house other than people going in the form of space heaters and such?
That's a good question. I mean, obviously, in the community, I mean, people use space heaters, which, if they're used properly, they're fine. Obviously, if you have to use one, you don't want to plug your space heater in to the extension cord by any means, and you'd be surprised. You don't want to plug it into the same outlet that's running your TV, your dishwasher. You try to find one that's kind of a separate circuit. I know in my house, being an older house too, it's hard because you might flip this off and it'll shut something off in every bedroom. But that's kind of the biggest thing. I know a lot of people are using wood stoves. They're putting them in themselves, and you'd be surprised at people that just set them on the carpet and run their stovepipe right out their window and up, and we try to stop and let the people know that, I mean, there's proper ways to do it, and they're wonderful. I mean, we have a wood stove and heats our house, and the kids love it sitting in front of it, but you just got to make sure that it's done. Homeowners can do it, but there's just certain guidelines that you need to follow. So other than that, a lot of people have wall heaters. You don't really want the ventless wall heaters in sleeping quarters and stuff like that, because, I mean, they're not burned right. You might not know. Definitely, if you have something like that, carbon monoxide detectors or something that you want. I mean, they're cheaper than smoke detectors now, so about every house would be something to suggest to get. So, yes, sir.
We're landlords of a few houses, and the fire department was very helpful to me when I called them and asked if they would come out and tell us how many smoke detectors we ought to have, and CO2 alarms, et cetera. They helped me plan that out, and they were very, very helpful. Then when we installed them, we learned that residents take the batteries out because they occasionally beep.
Yes, they do.
So, or they don't change the batteries. So we started a program where we have a routine maintenance where we change them every so often ourselves. We don't expect them to change them or don't ask them to. And then we still have the problem if they beep for any reason, they'll take them out.
Yes, that's one bad thing, is that they'll beep, they'll pull it out and do this. Something that I do with my family and my little kids, I've got a daughter that's 9 and a daughter that's 5 and the wife, and every time our smoke detector goes off, it doesn't matter what it's for, we go outside, we go to our meeting spot, come out, make sure everybody's okay. I'll go back in, okay, Dad was cooking, Then we come back in. And my kids now, if they hear it, it doesn't matter if they're in their bedroom playing, they know to go outside. And that's just, we stress that for the kids and stuff like that. And the parents, that's just something that if you do, because every time if they hear it, and they go, no. When it's nighttime and that smoke detector's going off, they're gonna lay there and not think anything about it. So, if anybody has a chance, that's something that I think that really works. I try to push in the schools and stuff, so. And it's like the batteries, the smoke detectors, we'll come out, call anytime, we'll schedule up the time to come do it, and we'll put the smoke detectors up for you. If the elderly or anybody else has batteries and they just need them put in, we'll bring our own step ladders out, we'll change them. It doesn't matter if it's a rental house, an apartment, if you need it done, we'll come do it for you, so
See them do it.
we'll do it. We'll have Officer Sewell come do it.
I have done it too.
Yes, ma'am?
This is the time of the year for a lot of fireplaces being used. Are there available chimney sweeps? They used to call that. Or how do you clean your fireplace?
There's chimney sweeps. I know there's one list in the phone book because part of our program, we're going through and we're listing chimney sweeps, certified, some electricians, some HVAC stuff, fire extinguishers. I'm just kind of doing it. People that live inside the Coffeyville, if we can find it, and that'll be part when we come out and we'll do our inspection or something, we'll give you that information, and we'll have it at the fire department. So even if you don't want us to come in and go through your home, if you'd just like to get the sheet that we'd like to do and you'd like to do it yourself, you can be more than welcome to just come down and get that information.
I know a lot of times the chimneys catch on fire because either you're burning the wrong wood for a long period of time.
Yes.
Build up, or they just don't clean it.
Yeah, that's true.
And there you go, and
I mean, you,
then they start and it's
good seasoned dry wood's what they say, but unfortunately, a lot of people, if they're just putting a fire stove in, a fireplace, they don't understand. They're go out and find them a tree, cut the tree down, get them a fire, get it to start burning, then all the smoke's coming out, and they call us because there's smoke coming from the house. And
But I have not heard of a lot of chimney sweeps per se.
no, the only one that I seen, Kenzie, in my book. Thank you. That's right. We just came from basketball practice, so, like, the only one that, it was actually called the chimney sweep, was the only one that I could find in our local, phone book. Like I said, we don't push anybody or any one thing, that's just the only one that was in there, so. It was in there, I'll give you his phone number, if anybody needs a chimney sweep, was 620-378-3854. And we'll have this list with the checklist and the fire extinguishers and all the other stuff that might be relevant information that we kind of see. And if anybody comes up with something that they'd like to see on it, we'll be happy to know, so that way we can get the information on there, because this is our first, we're just starting off, so we're kind of getting at it as we're kind of running into it, so.
Are you familiar with Vivint that's here in town?
That's the,
Kind of like an AT.
yeah, that's the home security, yes.
Yeah, and have you guys had any experience with that? Or is-
We've had, what brand it is, we'll get calls, will come in as a residential fire alarm, and we haven't had any that's came in as a true structure fire or something like that, but we do get those fall, which, like they say, we'd rather drive all the way across town and show up and be a false alarm than have something really going on, but they do, they have,
Well, I have that system, and it's along with security, and it has worked real well for me. It worked real well for my neighbor. She come to get me when I broke into my neighbor's house. Didn't know she had anything on it, and there she was. I know it worked down in my part, but I didn't know whether anybody was having any bad things to say about it or not.
I haven't heard it.
Businesses showed up in town one day and started door knocking.
Yeah,
And I get skeptical of those things, but so far I haven't had a problem.
No, that's actually how ADT has done theirs too. You'll see a lot of ADT signs where they've gone around and Vivint. Yeah, and we have another one in town, I can't think of the name of it though. They all go door to door. But if you are suspicious of somebody like that is going door to door, like the magazine salesmen that we get, I had a lady approach me a couple of weeks ago because she had bought magazines, and after she did, she realized she was missing some stuff out of the house, like a change that was sitting on the counter. So she says, hey, what do you think of these guys? So we went ahead and pulled it up on Better Business Bureaus, and it had an F rating, and nobody had ever gotten the magazines and that sort of stuff. So if you don't trust them, don't let them in your house. You can talk on the front porch if you're really interested.
That's where we're doing it.
And which doesn't surprise me with you. But you can also have us come check on them. For them to be able to sell something door to door, they have to have a permit with the city. So we can come out and not only run them for like wants and warrants, but we can also check that permit. And if they're not somebody we want going to door to door, we will make them, you go on, you skedaddle, and they won't be there anymore. So door-to-door salesmen, if you don't trust them, they don't have a permit, don't let them in your house. Because that was a prime example of that. And she kind of felt bad afterwards. She said, I knew it. I knew I shouldn't have let them in, but, sometimes they're pretty smooth talkers. So,
I can vouch for that. We had somebody the other day, I was at the fire department, my wife called me, and somebody came up to the door, and they're trying to sell vacuums, and it's like, it just didn't look right, so I was like, well, so I called over there, and sure, I'm not sure who it was, one of the officers showed up and ran them off, so.
they have to have a permit for that sort of thing, and they have to pay the city to be able to go door to door. So if they don't have a permit, we're not going to let them go door to door for one thing, and it also prevents things like that. Because with the magazine salesman, that's 2 incidents I know of. We had another one last year that they were like that. They were sticky fingered and the stuff never came in, so.
Yes.
Program, once you get it up and going, the flash program?
Yes.
It might be information that you could put with the chamber for the welcome stuff so that people from in the community, I mean, even your contact numbers for that. would
Yes.
be a good thing for, community members, and a lot of people just go to the chamber, they may already be living here, residents, but that'd be another way to get your information out, and that way, once you get your program and, material out, and then you can update
No, that's a good idea, thank you.
a good outsourced information.
Yeah, didn't think about that one, so that'll come in handy. Do you have any more questions? Like I said, we're taking lists, so if anybody's interested in wanting to sign up for the program, you can contact the fire department, and we'll get your name and your phone number, and then me or firefighter O'Connor, who's kind of doing this with me, we'll be in touch, and we'll get started on it, so. Also, if anybody's interested in our pink shirts that we sell, we've got a few left over there, so we're in our last little push on it, so. All right, thanks, you.
I have a confession. I have actually stopped cooking because you guys told me to stop using the smoke detector as a timer. So.
We're going to go ahead and wrap it up unless anybody has any questions. I think this has been a great meeting. We had an excellent turnout. I'm really happy to see some returning faces here and some newer ones. So if anybody has any questions, the non-emergency phone number to the police department is 620-252-6160. We'll have Sonia's PowerPoint posted on the Facebook page by tomorrow, and we'll also have this on podcast. So it'll be available on Facebook. So if you haven't liked us on Facebook yet, get out there and do that. All right, guys, thank you all for coming. Have a good evening. Oh, yes, sir.
Very quick, we live rural out here in the city.
Yeah.
We're interested in the possibility of trying to start a neighborhood watch program. Who would we contact?
You guys, if you're out of the city limits, you should contact Montgomery County. However, I've got an excellent packet that you should take with you before you leave that breaks down the neighborhood watch and how to start it. I did go over that at one meeting, and I'm probably going to revisit it in the next couple of meetings. Our next meeting, we're supposed to have Detective Sergeant Quinn Bromley come in and talk about drug houses and that sort of thing. So I think it'd be probably a good meeting for you guys to come to as well on that, because we're really going to start breaking down how to start a neighborhood watch, how to recognize burglaries, and how to recognize drug houses. So you got to take that packet with you. It'll help you out.
And our viewers that are watching at home, that also great. his question was, he lives outside the city limits, and how can he participate? And even if you live outside the city limits, you're always welcome to come to our Neighborhood Watch meetings. You're always welcome to contact us for any assistance that we can be. So don't ever hesitate to, everyone's welcome. This is a community, and even if you live outside the city limits, you're part of this community. You're vested in this community, and please come out to our meetings and ask us for any assistance that we can provide.
How about your signs? Neighborhood Watch signs?
I'm so proud of our signs. We have gotten most of them up. We are providing those to the neighborhood watches that are, we went out and we got a bunch of them. A few people who'd been attending regularly, they asked to put one up in their neighborhood, and we've got them out, and most of them are up. If you have a neighborhood that is active, we'll gladly come out and see where we can put one.
How does my neighborhood get at?
Your neighborhood is active, I'm telling you now.
Who's the active, who's the director of it?
I couldn't tell you who specifically is, but you do have an active neighborhood watch, and I think you might already have signs in your neighborhood.
I was just wondering if it is, I can't see it.
Well, you should.
We put this on the mailbox.
No, I'm going to put it in your yard, though. I think that it would be awesome in your yard, though.
Let it right up there.
So
But I didn't know who.
get with me afterwards, and I'll see where we can talk about putting a placement, because I know you do have an active neighborhood watch, and I'll see what information I can come up with over that.
I didn't know.
We have,
I know Steve lives down in there, but I didn't know whether the officers were involved in that or not.
I know he does look out for the neighborhood, but you had,
Yeah, but you gotta keep up with him.
yeah, he'll run me ragged. He's a busy guy, but there are 2 or 3 other people who I know are active besides him in your neighborhood, so I'll have to see if I have some documentation on that. So, does anybody else have any questions? And if you do have a neighborhood that is active, maybe you're not attending the meetings, but you watch it at home or you watch it on the podcast, and you do want a sign placed, just give me a call, Officer Sewell, number's 252-6160, and we'll see if we can't get something put up in your neighborhood. All right, thank you guys for coming out.